Hello, my name is Christopher Franz. I'm the founder of Country Community Honor. We're starting 2026 off a bit differently this year. This is not a candidate conversation. This is a casual conversation. Would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name's Adam Johnson. You know me from a picture. I'm Lectern Guy on Twitter. Just father of five, kind of libertarian values, but I vote mainly GOP because we see change enacted, and unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. So
I was
hoping to
about,
change that along the timeline.
yeah, I was about to say you are, I would say, I guess, pretty vocal about that you don't agree with the Congress's decisions all the time.
That's accurate.
So, coming into the 2026 elections, are there any candidates running for Congress that catch your eye?
Absolutely. My friend Brandon Herrera, I am, slightly biased because I know him. He's running against Tony Gonzalez, who was just endorsed by Trump. I was one of the things I was vocal about was that was a terrible endorsement. Brandon is a salt of the earth guy. I've met a lot of people going to events and stuff, and Brandon is someone who you'll see on screen, but that is the same guy you meet in person in real life. So when he tells you he cares, he's passionate about things, he's being honest about them.
And then, Brandon is in Texas. What state are you in?
I'm in Florida.
Is there anybody running in Florida that catches your eye?
I mean, we're all talking about the governorship right now. That's really the biggest marker. We have Florida's pretty red, so flipping seats at a congressional level. We have cities like Orlando, Tallahassee, we have Miami-Dade, we have Pensacola, Jacksonville. They used to lean really pretty heavy liberal, but now we have more soft conservatives there. So having a majority does make it easier to pass things in our state legislature, which is great. So replacing those right now, I don't think is in I think the immediate interest of Florida. So, I think keep candidates how we have now. Obviously, there's who I don't like, but we do need to keep things red until we figure out who the next governor is going to be and who's going to be directing them.
So there's no way we can convince you to run for Congress.
Well, we do have a couple of J60 running for Congress. So if you're asking me who I want to see win, we have, I guess, Jake Lang's running up somewhere in, I think, Matt Gates' district. And I think another guy who's running is always going to kill me if I remember his name. Super nice guy, Jonathan Strand. Jonathan Strand's running, I believe, for Senate down in West Palm County. I believe. Oh,
Okay.
no, 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 no. He's actually in Hillsborough or Pascal, one or the other. He was just endorsed by Lowen Boebert. Really nice guy. He is the one who was held in prison on the 1512C, which was found to be unconstitutional. The Supreme Court turned it over, but he wouldn't take a plea deal. He said this is not an accurate thing that you're doing. So you were talking about someone who has fortitude, someone who actually cares about his country. I would recommend Jonathan Strand.
Um, so there's some primaries already coming up just in March. Um, how do you feel about, like, especially in Texas with Brandon Herrera? Is that the only district that catches your eye, or is there any other districts in Texas?
Well, there's lots of, okay, so again, it's the same problem state by state. You have these larger cities, Dallas, Austin, Houston. Sure, we have, Republican seats, but they're not true Republicans. And I think people don't even recognize what a real Republican looks like anymore, or a real conservative looks like anymore. We're really passionate about winning, but I think we need to start running some of these outlier seats to actually have voices in there. People wake up a little bit like, oh, we can talk like that again. We can ask for more from our Congress representatives. I think Tony's a great guy to do that because he doesn't play politics, doesn't pull, or Brandon's a great guy to do that because doesn't pull punches, doesn't really play politics. Just this is what the Constitution says. This is what we're doing. This is what I was sent here to vote on. That's what I'm voting on.
How do you feel about Texas doing the redistricting to try and guarantee more red seats?
Well, that is I think I like it because I'm winning, right? And we have to really be careful when we have that kind of mindset because we have this thing that I always say, whatever power you give, whatever power you take to use against your enemies on a long enough timeline, they'll do the same thing against you. Now, we can look at the gerrymandering that's happening in a handful of states. Obviously, these maps don't make a lot of sense. They were drawn by, Michael J. Fox. I love Michael. That's not an insult. But it's been going on a long time. And it's nice to see Republicans actually stand up and try to play the same game that's been played against them for decades now.
I was like, I've never been too much of a fan of the Republican Party in general. I don't think you really have been either. So, how do you feel about Trump endorsing a lot of these candidates like Tony Gonzalez or Lindsey Graham, like the establishment Republican candidates?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to funding, right? It's the same reason why all of it exists the way it does. You need people who can raise money for the GOP. These people bring in a lot of money. I mean, I also don't think that he's so personally involved that every endorsement that he makes is an actual endorsement. There's people who endorse for him, just put in front of him. He says, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Let's move on. Is it a solid seat? Are we winning that seat? Let's find the ones we're not winning." Because the idea is to grow out Congress, grow out your seats, grow out the Senate, grow out your seats. Because right now we're being kneecapped in both places by Republicans who are there. So it is difficult. I don't think he really fully endorses these people, or even knows he's really endorsing these people, unless people online like myself get vocal about it. Hey, this is a bad call. And to this administration's like I give credit where credit is due. When people are vocal online, when we make noise about things, this administration does have people reading, and they do address these things in damn near real time.
For Congress and whatnot, I created Country Community Honor because I felt that neither party really represented the American people, and that, even if the president is endorsing, like Donald Trump says, we need to drain the swamp. And then he endorses people like Tony Gonzalez and then Lindsey Graham because he does need them on his side if he does want to try to get bills passed. But I feel like it's up to us, the American people, to say, yes, just because you endorsed him doesn't mean we're going to support him. We're going to vote for someone who will even help you out more.
That's it. I really do think we win by primarying people. Like long term, it's great that we have a majority, but what is that majority really doing for us? It's not enough to say that we're winning. We do this thing where we think we win, but we're not really recapturing any territory, and we're barely towing the line that they have redrawn for us every time the left gets into power. So when they get into power, they take land, they take it, they own it, and we never push back. We barely toe the line. So when we're talking about winning, we need to recapture territory, and that I think it looks like primarying some of these people out, making it a focus.
Yeah, I think so too. And the left knows how to play the primary games. They've been playing them for a while, and that is why we have people like Ilhan Omar or AOC or Rashida Tlaib in power, because they do know how to play these primary games, rally their voters, and turn out in the primaries. And if we keep continuing having only an average of 25% turnout in the primaries, nothing's actually going to change.
That is very true. That is very true. Um, yeah, so I mean, I don't think it's a problem with the messaging either, right? So we've had historic turnouts for the past couple of elections. That's been good news. It means people are actively involved, or the elections aren't on the up and up, one or the other. Um, but when it does come to midterms, local elections, people are it's kind of tangential to them because they don't really understand how much local politics affects their day to day lives. And that really is something we got to work on. So how do you get your messaging across to your neighbor? How do you get your messaging across to your local church, your community organizers? How do you get their message across to make sure it's like, hey, that's the reason why your county looks like the way it does.
No, and that was another reason going into 2024 with the primaries and everything. It was a lot of these candidates running against the establishment. They didn't have a way to actually push their message. They didn't have the money, they didn't have the funds, they didn't have the resources, and they're going up against the multi-billion-dollar propaganda machine that's able to just push lies, slander, and defame whatever they want, and then how do the people with no money and no resources compete against that?
And there's also, I mean, it's not just like when you run in a primary, you're running against someone that you would have dinner with, or you might be like at a backyard barbecue. Local politics are difficult, and then you take that the next couple of steps. I mean, if you want to make it to Congress, you have to rub elbows on the way up with some people that are duplicitous and maybe not the most savory of characters. That's just the nature of the game. You have to give speeches to places that give you money because you want to win your campaign. So I take a look at what Congress is right now, and I take it with a grain of salt, understanding that maybe these people really do believe in what they believe in. But anyone who's in Congress, it takes 10 to 15 years to get that one passion pet project passed. And you're going to have to sign off on a lot of stuff that maybe should make you not sleep so well at night. But I mean, fixing it again, it starts local. It starts local, and then keeping those people accountable on the way up.
Well, it does, because if it's the local grassroots people who raise up these politicians, donate to them, people like Thomas Massey, they can actually get elected into these positions, and it doesn't matter if the establishment wants them gone. The actual people want them there. So we need to try to find more candidates like that running in 2026. And the sad reality is there's still a good amount of incumbents that run completely unopposed in their primaries.
Yes. So Massey is an interesting character. I like him quite a bit. He definitely votes constitutionally. He's consistent, and Rand Paul gets kind of the same look from the right. And it's like I can't hate the guys because at least they're being consistent. Now, if we're talking about voting party lines and getting things passed, I mean, when my time as Speaker of the House, I I gave a short speech and it was like 3 lines, and two of the lines were we're going to vote on one budget item at a time, which is that would solve so much of this because then we really can break things down. And God forbid they'd have to work 5 days a week like the rest of us. We can move things along. But again, for Massey and Paul, I love them. They're constitutionalists. They vote with their heart, and they also vote the way the Constitution is written for them to vote. But there's only like a handful of those people that exist. And a lot of times, what that does is it slows down what good might be done during session. So that's also something we have to address. And we if we had 10 Masseys, right? Consider the New America First Party in Congress that took out the last Speaker of the House because they said we didn't vote to do these things. Like that was, I think, one of the first moments that I've seen in my lifetime in Congress where a smaller party had the power to do anything that the American people sent them to do. And we do need more of that. But now we've got MTG's out. I know Lowen Bobert's upset because her funding for her pipeline just got shut down. So she'll be on the outs the next 6 weeks. And I think it's going to hurt long term. I think we should play nice with these people because they vote the way their constituents are asking them to vote.
Yeah, one of the issues, I do like Massey a lot, but one of the issues I do have with him is he's been in Congress for so long and he doesn't really have much of a backing or a following or a coalition. He's still more or less a lone wolf. And so for
Mhm.
a real leader, I think we need someone who over the course of the last decade would have built a decent coalition of 10, 20, 30 people that always he can get them to stand behind him every single time. And so I think we need to vote more people like that into office. And we do get a chunk of 20, 30, 40 people in 2026. We might actually have a chance to make real change.
I completely agree with that. So again, it's not that I'm against the way Massey votes. I like his voting style, but it is we need to get things done because
Yes.
if the left wins, they're going to push things through. They don't wait. They don't care what's in the bill. They're not reading these things. They just know they're winning, so they're going to pass things through. They will pack the Supreme Court. They will end, the filibuster. They're going to do these things. It will happen immediately. They will shove things through. Maybe federal judges were hired during Obama's term and Biden's term. We can barely get any nominated now, and we've got, I think it's a third of these civil rights prosecutors for the DOJ have now resigned.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to go after people who are here illegally.
But I mean, when you mentioned how many federal judges we appointed under Obama and Biden, don't the Republicans have to also approve those?
You bring up an interesting point.
Excuse me. So it's just so interesting that when the Democrats are in power, like one of my biggest complaints of the Republicans is when Biden was president, Mike Johnson left a meeting saying he left the meeting knowing Biden was not all there, had no clue what was going on, what he was signing, and then didn't do anything about it. It was at the very least, shouldn't this be 25th Amendment worthy? You're sitting down with Harris being like, we need to talk about getting rid of Biden.
I think everything. So it's also they should have used it, sure, but you're also talking about setting precedent, right? We have a precedent now where the Democrats are going to have to try to impeach Trump. How many times this time so far they brought it up? I know we're north of 10 or 11.
Oh, it's
You know,
every day. It's like we need to impeach him for something.
oh yeah, oh, at least the ones that have made the news, right?
Yeah.
So it is difficult because that again, that just wastes time. If we would have brought up a 25th, I mean, we would have been doing that instead of whatever else they were doing, probably sending our money to Ukraine. So but
And
it's what are you actually there to do? And again, you were going to get rid of him. You want to put in Kamala that soon? You know what I mean?
well, so
Like at least
I was about
the,
to say
the
I mentioned
staffers
it
may
to
be
my
nefarious, the
family.
ones running things, but Kamala, she would want to take charge, and that might actually turn out worse.
Oh, I know, but see, like what I mentioned to my family is setting precedent, showing what a real leader is. Like Mike Johnson, what he should have done: 25th Amendment, Biden. 25th Amendment, Harris. Hey, you enabled this, you protected it, you're gone. I am stepping up as the next 2 years as president. I will not be running for election. I am a placeholder here to guarantee that the Democrats cannot continue pushing this. We will have the next election. If it's Trump, let's support Trump. That would have
Yep.
showed real leadership, but,
Yep.
we don't
I
have real
also
leadership.
we're talking, hypothetics, but I think if he had done that, I don't know if we would have seen Trump in office because
Very true.
that would have given ammo to the left to say, look at them, they're lawless, they're trying to throw out a duly elected president from office. This is, but that would be their rhetoric, right? So when I say things like we should be careful with precedent, I don't mean that we shouldn't set precedent. I mean we should be very specific the precedent that we set because when we do attack, and I do think we need to attack. I think it needs to be the most precise, most damaging thing we can do to the socialist system that's taken its roots in our country possible. And I don't know if the 25th on an aging guy who wasn't even going to run, it would have been the right move to do. Should have done it, but maybe was it the right move?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just there's so many different things that could have been done. The Republicans had so many opportunities, like impeaching Mayorkas or just anything, and they just never took them. And then now they're slow walking Trump's agenda, and it's like, oh, we must reelect all these same people, otherwise the Democrats get in power. And it's like, but what does that really matter?
It was it. Tim Burchett came out. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, and he came out and said, after seeing what happened with the election in Fulton County, all these things coming out, seeing the fraud that's happening in Minneapolis, now more than ever we need to win the midterms. And it's like, my guy, we just showed up in record numbers to give you guys the House, the Senate, and the presidency. You're show us
Yeah.
why.
It's like I
Like,
have no enthusiasm to vote for so many of these establishment Republican candidates. I don't care if Trump is endorsing them. It's just, what have you done?
and the messaging is great. I mean, I pissed off a lot of people who are very MAGA because I said, look, the messaging is great. I like the mean tweets. I love the social media accounts. I love it's fun to watch.
It
Because
is.
at some point, bread and circuses. Everyone needs a day off. You know, so that's fun to watch. But I'm looking at the things that I actually voted for that I believe most people actually voted for. We want accountability for the people who locked us up in our homes, who told us, we're going to print all this money and deflate the dollar, where your buying power is half of what it used to be. We want answers for these things. And I know that Biden's DOJ was responsible for the last 4 years and it takes time to build cases. I understand that. And I get that arresting these people in DC and having DC juries is not going to be a great way to go because they vote 97% Democratic. I mean, good luck getting a grand jury to indict these people. I get all of that. But for optics alone, we have to start drawing out some big name people and saying, we think they are guilty of this. Here is our case against them. Because the court of public opinion will win the midterms. Whether you sink these people in prison or not, I don't think it'll ever happen. They have enough money, resources, and people they can talk to get these things gone. The win is public court opinion. Do something. Do a couple of perp walks. Show people we are trying.
Exactly. And when you said the court of public opinion, it just reminds me of just how badly they fumbled the Epstein files and just the way they rolled it out, what they said, hoax, we don't have yada yada, and now it's like we have millions of files that we're redacting and releasing because Congress is now forcing us, and it's, but didn't you say what happened to the binder? Like what's going on?
This is and I think it was the day that Trump came out and said, "Are we still talking about this guy?" He was sitting down. I think it was with Rubio and Pam Bondi at a table, and he's like, "Can I answer this question? Why are we still talking about a dead guy?" And to me, what that sounded like was Hillary Clinton during Benghazi, the hearings over that. At this point, what difference does it make now? And it was so synonymous with that I think people were like, "Man, that is the worst possible thing you could have said." It's the worst possible thing because how much ammo did they just give the Democrats in that one little soundbite? They've been running on that for the past 6 months.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I do agree that yes, under the Biden's DOJ and whatnot, the Epstein files could have been messed with, redacted. Trump
Oh,
saying
I'm sure they were.
this is a hoax. Yes, things could have been changed to implicate people. But the way you spoke about it, the way it came across, the way you just kind of tried to dismiss it, it really upset a lot of people,
Hmm.
and that's not going to help out in the midterms.
No. And so the problem is too when you are president, when you hold a position of power and authority, I mean, you can't apologize. I mean, that looks like weakness on a stage. Unfortunately, that is part of our Western culture. Men don't apologize. We're always right. And even if I'm wrong, I'll show you why I'm right. And there's been some backpedaling. First, there were videos. I've seen thousands of hours, but now there's not thousands of hours of footage. I mean, it just looks and sounds bad, man. It does, and I know they want it all to go away, but the American people on both sides. I mean, there's a couple of things we all agree with. You don't hurt kids. I mean, that's an apolitical issue. We can all agree on that, right? That's bad. That's bad. Why the hell would you fumble this one?
I know, it's just like
Of all the things to fumble, why this one? Why this one? And
the
look, they didn't delete. Okay, so the schools of thought are they deleted everything, right? Well, no, they wouldn't do that because then they would like, no, we came in here, it's all gone. They got rid of everything. And then you start an investigation trying to find who deleted it, right? They would delete everything. What they would do is change evidence. They would absolutely do that. And I think the redactions are covering up. We can't believe their names are in the files. How true is this? Were these things manipulated? I think maybe some investigations may be going towards that. But how do you talk about this without implicating people, right? And the implications of just simply being around this man are enough to destroy you, or should be enough to destroy you, as far as I'm concerned, when we found out that he was an actual pedophile in the late 90s. And
and
then people still went hung out with him. So I don't get that.
oh yeah, so I do understand the argument of the whole quote national security implications. So many of our elected officials or people in power were entangled with this guy, whereas if we take them down, our entire, political system could collapse. And it's like, but if that many terrible people are it needs to collapse like
Uh-huh.
that.
Well, like the system is standing so well on its own right now. You know, um, and look, I think it's not the political system that would collapse. I think it's you take a couple of I've done this spiel a couple of times with people. Let's list like 5 to 10 people you think that might be on the list, and consider that maybe 3 or 4 of them are CEOs of either you know big banks or huge publicly traded companies that hire a million people, right? Let's say hypothetically, and I don't think it's on there. Jeff Bezos is on there. You even name someone like Jeff Bezos, what that does to the stock overnight,
Oh yeah.
what that does for layoffs. I think one of the major reasons we won't hear about this is the economic implications of a fallout if 3 or 4 publicly traded companies, half the boards went to parties. I think it's more about that than the political structures, personally.
That is a very good point. I mean, we don't want the economic system to collapse, but right now we're kind of in an economic bubble with
We might
everything's
get there anyway.
yeah, like everything's getting kicked down the road and it's just $38 trillion in debt, soon to be 39, then 40, omnibus bills, continued resolutions, then NDAAs, just billions of dollars constant funding, and just every every politician we elect seems to just more or less go along with it every time. And how do we make that change? How do we get people to office that won't support these omnibus bills?
Well, again, that's a bit above my pay grade. Um, but I think it goes back to what I said. People need to spend 10 to 15 years in Congress to get one pet project passed because how do you get a bill passed, right? Because it's a lot more than the Schoolhouse Rock song, right? It's so much more than that. You need to have people who will sign on with your bill, support your bill, say, yeah, I will push for that in this big budget, but I've got my pet project too. We do that as well. And then you get these omnibus bills. So you could be 10 to 15 years in before the first thing that you said you wanted to do in Congress everyone gets talked about because you have to build alliances and allegiances and you got to get enough support to get it passed. So, how do you fix it? I think you're either going to fix it or not. You're either going to fix it very quickly or it's going to fall apart very rapidly. And I think if you want to fix it very quickly, you've got to primary a lot of people.
That's kind of been my thought process for a while now. That's why I created Country Community Honor, because it was, hey, if we get enough people to pay attention, put money behind this, we can unseat at least 25% of Congress in one election, and that would make a major change. But we need people to actually be putting in their money behind the candidates they want to see running. And so many people, they'll never donate to politics. They don't want to be involved. You try to talk to them
Mhm.
about it, and it's just, oh, it's Elon's job or someone else's job to be the one funding these candidates. And it's just that's what's the issue with the party system. If we rely on billionaires or millionaires or a select group to fund our candidates, then our candidates only work for those people.
Yep. Well, I think the oligarchy is definitely by design and not by accident. And when you say things like that, it's up to Elon. Like, Elon did give us Twitter. I mean, it's the freest place to speak on the internet, which is nice. You do see him going to battle and war against a lot of other countries who have freedom, laws. And I think Elon's a great ally to have. I think we can't rely on everything, but the squeeze that has happened because we do have basically down to a two-class system at this point, with the middle class being squeezed at every single angle. Between the price of used cars, I think what is it? The median age for first-time home buyers now like in the mid 40s.
Oh,
I
some
mean,
things say 50, others say like 61. It's ridiculous.
yeah, it's the median of the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at the inability for the middle class to have their voices be heard, and that's where I think primarily we could be able to win is if the middle class had enough money to donate. But you know, even churches are shutting down at this day these days. Like, we even see smaller churches closing the doors, going to mega churches, so that continual drive to like oligarchical structures. I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing at every turn in our country, which is very unfortunate. But that's where we are. So how do you give Americans back $25 to donate to a local politician that'll make their immediate lives better? Like, where do you find $25? I know in my state, DeSantis has been talking about getting rid of property taxes for the past year, and I think we have four different options Congress is looking at right now. So, I mean, that would be a lot of relief to Florida residents where they could put their money back into charitable giving or giving it to a politician that has their best local interests in mind.
Yeah, one of the things though is a lot of people right now they do enjoy their habits or their luxuries where they don't have $25 to donate to a politician, but coffee at Starbucks every day, no
Yep.
issue. And it's like, okay, well that adds up very much. And when you support, you know, Microsoft, Apple, Starbucks constantly buying all of their products and stuff. Who are they donating to? Well, they're donating to basically the Democrat and Republican parties, the people
Both.
that don't represent you. And so you're giving people money that the people that hate you money. And so I just don't understand why so many people just keep supporting the same system that they complain about. To me, it just confuses me.
I think it's because no one really thinks about local politics until, oh, is it election day? Like, they don't. It's not really on top of mind any day, but a week before election day, I should probably look up who's running and what policies they want to push. They don't come out to meet and greets. They don't ask hard questions to these people. They're really not involved in day to day. So it's easy for them to have those little dopamine hits every day. As the world around them is burning, and they sip their coffee because that's the one thing they have left. Everything else sucks. Here's my coffee.
Oh yeah, and then I do understand like so many people they're just completely checked out of politics. What can I do? Voting doesn't matter, and it's just well, it seems like that's how the majority of people feel. So if the majority of people feel voting doesn't matter and don't vote, what happens if they do vote and they're the majority?
I think you get populism, and I think that's what we got in Trump. The way he, I mean, when is the last time a president came and talked at the Libertarian Convention?
Never.
Right? So it is obvious that the independent, the Libertarian Party does have a say in how the country goes. Otherwise, they wouldn't be fighting for these votes. And that also might be, a lot of people are registered independent. They're maybe registered like left right because their parents were. They signed them up when they got their licenses. And I think a lot of those people have become jaded with the system. And a lot more people are independent than they care to admit. They, oh, I'm a Democrat, or oh, I would never be a Republican. Like they may have those things in rhetoric only, but behind closed doors, a lot of people are very independent. They don't really care about the nuance of culture. They're like, I can't afford groceries. Who's going to fix that?
When you get down to it, most Americans are probably fairly libertarian when it actually comes to how they want their government to function.
Yeah.
But they just don't want to be involved. And again, that's a libertarian thing too. Basically, I saw Thomas Massey comment on something, and I thought it was hilarious. It was, "What's the least libertarian thing you've ever done?" And it was, "Get elected." And it was just like, okay, yeah. If we had more libertarians, I feel, actually running in the Republican primaries, I think there'd be more of a chance to make a difference because the Libertarian Party's been around for a while now, and they'll try to run people on for their party for Congress, and it's 3, 4, 5% of the vote, if that. But if you actually run a libertarian in the primaries and they win, some of these districts are R plus 10, 20, 30, 40. It doesn't matter who the candidate is. As long as they have that correct letter, they win the general.
Ron Paul. Yeah. Ron Paul.
Yeah, there's a few people, there's a few examples, and I really hope in 2026 we can get some more.
Well, listen, Democrats have figured that out. In case you haven't noticed, you should look into some of these. Again, this I talk about Florida. Orlando, we're a very red state, but some of these elected officials we have with the Republican, the R next to their name, they're not really conservative whatsoever.
No.
It's conservative light. They're saying enough to not get elected, right? But then you also have to understand that these people, the things that if what they're saying is not so far right of center to get them not elected from the left, I have to assume that they don't really believe anything more far right than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the furthest they are willing to talk is about here. They won't go much further, right? So that means the shift leftward of center has to be a lot deeper of a belief structure for them than the right portion of it. So when I see someone who is a soft conservative, a soft Republican, I immediately think, oh, they'll be a Democrat on a long enough line of questions.
Well, I know I've heard the joke going over the years, but it's just about the Supreme Court. You always know how basically the liberal judges will vote. You never know how the conservative ones will. And it's just like,
Well, I can tell you, it's pretty easy to predict if you look at gender. Is it an emotional issue we're discussing? I can tell you how ACP is gonna vote on it.
yeah, but I mean, even Roberts, though, sometimes, like, people, we have no idea how Roberts is going to vote on this. Is he going to join the Democrats? Is he going to join the
Well, his
conservatives?
gender's in the air as far as I'm concerned.
But yeah, is there anything else you want to mention about the upcoming 2026 primaries or any candidates besides Brandon you want to shout out or endorse?
Jonathan Strand, absolutely. Go check him out. He's a great guy, honest guy, willing to fight for his country, did fight for his country nonviolently. Um, but a super nice guy. He and Brandon Herrera. I encourage everyone to, I don't endorse a lot of candidates. I'm very hesitant to do it because if I endorse someone, I'm there for the long haul. Brandon has convinced me that he is that as well. And Jonathan, the time that I've known him, he's also convinced me. So find out who these people are. Get involved.
I completely agree. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. Where can people find you? How can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter nearly exclusively. I'm only on Facebook for grandma and the aunts and uncles who don't live in Florida. On Twitter, it is at Lectern Leader. It's Lectern Leader. And then I have a book and some fun merchandise out on my websites at unlicensed.furnituremovers.com.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for everybody listening. If you like the video, like it, share it, tell your friends, tell your family. 2026 has already started. If we want to make a difference, we have to start now. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.